Today we talk about how we derive our identity and how that impacts our spiritual advancement. People identify with various objects to attain fulfillment, but fail. The problem is that the root of identification is the body-mind entity, which by nature is not meant to be one with the source of happiness. With regular contemplation and exercise, the seeker could shift from the body-mind identity to the awareness identity, where they find permanent fulfillment. What is identity? Identity means what we think we are, what we perceive ourselves. The body is mortal, and the mind is ever-changing. They are ephemeral. So identifying with body-mind is a false identification. We are awareness in reality. So identifying with awareness is proper identification. That means we firmly believe we are awareness. We live as unchanging, unmoving, and untouched pure awareness. Although there is no such moment that we are not pure awareness, but in most cases, awareness is not perceived to be at the front of the being, leading to striving to attain a state of pure awareness through arduous spiritual practices. There have been extensive discussions about identification, but it is necessary to take a fresh look at it, particularly from how we practice it to advance in our quest. For an unawakened individual, identity relates to possessions and abilities. For example, people may determine their identity from the brands or products, services they consume. They adapt their personality to reflect the brand they use. Identification with those possessions produces high self-esteem. The person feels they are more than others in some way. Identity could be based on abilities as well. Take an example of a person who is very efficient and passionate about their job. They may determine their identity based on their agility and passion towards work. However, possession and ability are forms. Some are gross and others are subtle. Identity derived from a form is not everlasting. For example, agility diminishes after some years, like physical attractiveness fades after some years. Then it becomes agonizing to see that diminishing. On the other hand, identity could be from some lack. An individual had limitations like monetary problems or other difficulties that hindered them from gaining a qualification. This type of identification causes low self-esteem. An identity with possessions, abilities, or relationships is okay for a while, as it keeps the person in healthy self-esteem. It is better to have a healthy self-esteem than low self-esteem. However, is healthy self-esteem permanent? In the long term, high self-esteem is not satisfying, and the individual starts to question what it is all about. If the high self-esteem were sufficient, why would many still feel a lack even after name and fame? Many celebrities commit suicide, which is surprising, as we wonder what circumstances led them to feel so bad that they thought about ending their life. But look carefully. What is the root of the identity? Is that the possession or something else? The product, brand, name, or fame by itself are not harmful. They become problematic when body mind entity is attached to them. Ego is the root of identity formation. If ego diminishes, possessions and abilities will not leave much impact. You may be driving a Rolls Royce and be absorbed in self. Seekers have experienced that. As they progressed in spirituality, the identification with possessions and abilities diminished. The reason is that the root cause, which is the identification with the body and mind, weakens. Sage Ramana placed so much emphasis on removing the body mind identification. He guided whenever identification with the body exists, a body is always available, whether this one or any other one, till the body sense disappears by merging into the source, the spirit, or self. Sage explains when one merges into the self, then the body mind identification will end. Sage has pointed out how vital it is ending the body mind identity. The body mind identity is the cause of rebirth. The awareness is imperishable, but when awareness takes a form, it gets influenced by the body mind identification and perpetuates the body, and a rebirth occurs. Removing body mind identification is the only solution for exiting the cycle of birth and death. Some seekers query how simply ending the body mind identity could end rebirth. By law of karma, one has to retake birth to manifest the previous karma. The book Life Beyond Death by Anilji offers a helpful explanation for this point. The combined action of three forces usually determines the place of birth. Firstly, the law of evolution, which causes the soul to be born under conditions that will give it an opportunity of developing precisely those qualities of which it is most in need. Secondly, is the law of karma. And lastly, is the force of any personal ties of love and hatred that have been previously formed. This principle ranks spiritual advancement as the first factor for determining where the soul would take birth. Karma is secondary, spiritual progress is primary. The point is clear. If we advance ourselves to get free from the body mind identity and connect with the source, that will give a higher contribution relative to karma, and accordingly, we will be placed on a higher plane where we could further evolve. Therefore, our emphasis should be on consciously living as awareness. Sage has advised that merging into the source is the way to remove the body mind identity. Contemplation and exercise may help us merge into the source. Contemplation means viewing bodily action, thought, emotion, and interaction, all as the multiple forms of awareness that exist within the awareness. How we should contemplate? We could say these words to us. In my pristine nature, I am pure awareness. Other entities that I see are also awareness. In essence, This body and mind are awareness and exist in the awareness. I am present as this body, thoughts, and emotions, but simultaneously, I am present as the pure state, the untouched, unchanging awareness. When we look at the scene in front of us, we should think, who is watching the scene? Is body mind watching or is awareness watching? Bring attention to awareness as frequently as possible. At the manifestation level, the body mind identity interacts with other body mind. At the unmanifested level, the body mind is none other than the awareness. It is talking to awareness and listening to awareness. Bring awareness to the front of every activity, thought, and emotion. Sages have innumerable times given this message to humanity. What humanity lacks is contemplation, a constant remembrance of our true identity could shift us from personal identity. Now we talk about one exercise. Think, what hinders us from sticking to the source? The ego identity doesn't let us connect with the source. Now think, how is identity formed? We need thought to form the identity. The thought creates a mental picture, either a high self-esteem or a low self-esteem. This mental formation feeds the ego personality. Ego is a contradistinction of the awareness self. As ego gets stronger, it gets more distanced from the reality. When ego lessens, we get close to reality. The constant stream of thoughts is the barrier to reach our pure state. At this point, some clarification is required to understand the character of thought. Not all thought serves as a barrier. We have two types of thoughts. One is the thoughts needed to function in life. Uh, Work-related thoughts fall into this category. Those do not cause trouble, as they do not form a mental image or identity. For example, we drive a car. The driving activity by itself does not create a mental image. The other type of thoughts that are psychological thoughts, look, they are problematic as they are related to the personal identity. Which car brand we drive may create a mental image, or our driving ability, how we see our driving ability, may create a mental image. As psychological thoughts are the main obstacle in our progression, we should minimize them. However, it is challenging to get rid of them. Seekers say the thought stream becomes even more problematic when they sit for meditation. Therefore, a suggestion is to use the moment when we get a psychological thought, that moment when the thought comes, to shift our identity to the source. So how can we do this? When a thought appears, at that moment, carefully separate yourself from it and shift to the watching position. Compare this to how you watch a cloud in the sky. We do not merge with the cloud to watch the cloud. Watch the thought and let it go like a cloud passing. Another thought will come. Keep yourself separate and let it pass in front of you. More thoughts will come. Do the same by sticking to the watcher position. Once you affirm yourself in the watcher position, you will find that you can be quiet and see the thoughts passing. Eventually, you notice that thoughts stop. Remain in the position for 2 minutes. This thought free place is the place of awareness. That is the place where the spiritual quest ends. Immerse yourself in this place. Spend some time every day here. As you connect with it, the habit will form and maturity will come. Spending time here every day is critical to developing the habit. Remember how a child resists on the first day of school, how parents build the practice in the child. The child cries to leave the place to go to home, but the teachers advise parents to be strong and let the child stay at school. Then, in a few days, the child becomes habitual of the school. Our home is awareness, not the body mind. Never say, my body, my mind. Always say, this body, this mind. That will create a distance between you and the body mind and help dissolve the ego identity. Thank you.